Good afternoon, traders. This is Nick Massandrea of Market Tea Leaves. I'm here to interview someone that I consider to be a legend in the trading community, Mr. Norman Hallett of Disciplined Trader. Norman is an expert in the field of trader psychology. As my readers know, each day prior to the market opening, I issue a new edition of Market Tea Leaves, and as such, I dissect the markets to benefit my subscribers. But I'm not a trading psychologist. Norman is someone whose work I follow for the better part of 10 years, and I would strongly recommend that you listen to what he has to say. So Norman, as I mentioned, each and every day I dissect the markets to determine the proper call to make to my subscribers. But oftentimes these subscribers approach me with the intent of seeking help. Now, I can help them with a technical issue. I can help them with a charting issue. I can answer, well, why isn't the market correlated today? But I can't help them when it comes to trading psychology. What can you tell us about this field and the importance of it as it relates to trading?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Nick. What I can say about the importance of trading psychology, how it relates to trading, is really it is the difference between why people win consistently and why they don't win consistently. Generally, in the 33 years that I've been around the market, and more specifically the last 7 or 8 where I've concentrated on helping traders with the mental and emotional issues of trading, I got to tell you that most traders have a pretty good trading system. Some are better than others. Some I look at and, boy, I say they're taking their profits a little bit too early. Some I think they're letting them run too far. They're not keeping their, I have my own opinion on what a system should be, but it's important that a system be tailored to the individual. So there are a lot of systems out there that would make X amount of money or Y amount of money over time, and they're very good. But most of the traders that come to me are losing on these fairly good or very good systems because they cannot keep their psychology together. They cannot stick to their trading plan. They start to think while they trade, as opposed to, you should be doing all your education and all your thinking before you get into the market. Once you execute a position, or once you're about to execute a position, all the thinking about it is gone. You should just be acting on your plan. So it takes you got to be off the market, off the computer, and you need to exercise what it takes, do the things that it takes to be a disciplined trader. And it doesn't take much, really. It's 10 or 15 or 20 minutes a day. Although I know some very important money managers that manage billions of dollars that spend literally 2 or 3 hours a day on the areas of mental and emotional issues. And I'm going to go through a little bit of what they're going to do if you ask the right questions. And I'll and when I ask why they spend so much time on the air, it even sounded a lot of time to me. They say because it's that important. So the more successful you become, the more you realize that all you really needed to do was to pay more attention to the mental and emotional issues of trading, and not so much to where you're buying and where you're selling.
So do you think that, or do you feel that, well, I guess the better question is, what do you feel comes first, technical trading skills or trader psychology?
Well, that's kind of a chicken and the egg kind of thing.
Okay.
I think that you need to have a basic you need to have your basic trading skills. You need to have a plan, and when I'm talking about, when I speak of skills, I'm thinking about the technical skills of, most people talk about analyzing the market. That's your trading plan, and that's cool too. Of course, you need the trading plan, but you also need, you need to paper trade, not so much to experience the market, whatever, but more to exercise your skill of placing orders, placing stops, executing your plan. And once you have that down, I think paper trading is pretty overrated. I think you've got to start trading to really let the emotion out, so that you can start to judge what's happening, correct what's happening on a small risk scale, and then as you get more and more discipline, you can ratchet up your exposure. But as far as what I feel comes first, technical trading skills or trading psychology, I would have to say you really should be working on both right from the beginning. I mean, the sad truth is that most traders believe that, you know, if they just have a good system, that's all they need. And after 2 or 3 blown accounts, only then do they put the ego aside and be ready to say, hey, it's me. Most traders don't want to say I'm the problem.
Right.
They would much rather, it's much easier to blame the market and so on. And hey, look, I'm not saying anybody's a bad person for that.
Right.
Because we've all done that. It's just that the sooner you can compress that time frame from your ego tripping to understanding that you need to control yourself as a trader and run your plan. Right. You need to work on yourself from the inside to be a disciplined trader. The sooner you're going to be a consistent trader. Now, what happens is that as you in the very beginning, especially, you have your trading plan and you have a certain awareness of your mental and emotional state. You may have even done some subconscious training to strengthen some of the important mental and emotional areas, like having patience and taking the trade without hesitation when your system gives it to you. You may have actually started working on even building neural pathways to support your behavior as a trader, the proper behavior as a trader. But when you actually enter the market and put money at risk, that's when the rubber meets the road. That's when the emotions will come up, even in the smallest of risk taking.
Right.
And that's what you should be doing, taking the smallest risk to still execute your plan. Once you see that come up, and if you miss a trade because of you were a little scared to take the trade, or for whatever emotional reason, you can then back off, work on that emotional skill through subconscious training or however you choose to do that, and then come back trade. Once you master your emotion at a low level of exposure, then take on 2 positions instead of 1, or 3 positions instead of 2. And because every time you ratchet up, you're going to get more emotional response, and you're going to have to deal with that emotional response. But this is something that's a process that's really easy to do over time. So.
Yeah, I find that most of the people that approach me with this type of an issue, this type of problem, you know, they'll turn around and say, well, you know, it looked good, but, you know, I just didn't know, and I hesitated. In other words, they're afraid to pull the trigger, and they have some hesitation about that, or they overanalyze. You know, in other words, I think there's a term in trading, paralysis by analysis, or analysis by paralysis, etc. And sometimes they suffer from that, and you know, that's not, you know, for myself personally speaking, you know, it's not really something that I can help them with. I could talk to them about what happened. I could talk to them about, you know, what I think is going to happen. But in terms of, you know, saying to them, well, you got to pull the trigger or else, I mean, that's not really something that I'm going to do, nor am I prepared to do. But it seems to be the biggest complaints are analysis by paralysis and hesitation. Just as you mentioned earlier, you know, they have some trepidation about pulling that trigger, even though, you know, in reality they know it's probably the right thing for them to do. Do you feel that there are any kind of exercises that you would recommend, or you could recommend, that a trader should or could go through prior to trading?
Well, I think that there are a number of processes, but before you enter a process of changing your mind to be disciplined, of training your mind to be a disciplined trader, I think you have to honor a couple of trading realities that if you can master, will serve you in a macro area. For instance, a trader must be positive, must have a positive expectancy. Every time a trader sits down to trade, they must believe that they're a winning trader, and they do the things that a winning trader does. In fact, whenever we have like a button that we kind of the crazy little button that we sell on our site. It's like a flashpoint button. I don't know if you ever saw the thing from the Easy button.
I think so. Yeah. Of course, some staples. I think it was. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have, it looks exactly like a Staples button. Instead, it's the flashpoint. Flashpoint to me is where your trading system gives you a signal to do something, either put in a stop, take a trade.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find yourself hesitating, or if you just missed it, you know, if you hit the button, here's what it says. I am a wise and disciplined trader. The things the wise and disciplined trader does. I'm a wise and disciplined trader, and I do the things that a wise and disciplined trader does.
Okay.
You must see yourself. You must be positive, hold a positive expectancy, and you must see yourself and act as if, and act with that as a fact that you're a wise and disciplined trader, and you do the things that a wise and disciplined trader does. Does a wise and disciplined trader pass on a signal that is tested trading plan gives him or her? And the answer is no. A wise and disciplined trader takes the trade without hesitation. A wise and disciplined trader doesn't have fear, because fear is that, you know, you mentioned analysis, paralysis by analysis. There's kind of two sections to that. Most of that expression applies to people not wanting to actually get involved in trading at all. I'm not ready yet to start trading because they still have another indicator that they want to learn how to use, another application of a Bollinger Band or a percent, or they want to throw in another. They're not quite ready to trade. The other paralysis by analysis is the result partially of that, but it's where your trading plan gives you a signal, and because you're afraid to lose, or you don't have a positive expectancy, that you hesitate to take the trade, and then as you chase the market, of course, by definition, you're increasing your risk, and you're reducing your profits. And so all I have to say is, if you cannot get, and I do this all the time, I have a plan, I need to buy at a certain amount, and I do this in the physical market too. I just bought 10 ounces. I just bought 10 Canadian maple leafs. Right. And I didn't want to pay any more than $1,700 each. Now, in order for that to happen, I had to see the actual gold price go to about $1,640. And I missed it several times over the last month, where it was 1701, 1703, 1702, but I did not act. And then the market rallied up to 1770, and I said to myself, you know, you can get down on yourself for a moment, but then you say, hey, I have a plan, and I work the plan, and it works for me. You're going to have momentary lapses, but then you have the immediate reaction. And yesterday, my plan was fulfilled as the market got down to a point where I bought them at $16.99. And so whether it's the physical market or the trading market, or really my life in general, when I'm negotiating on a piece of property, buying a piece of property is the most important thing. If I don't get it, if I miss it because it's too low, or for whatever reason, that's okay. There'll always be another piece of property. There'll always be another gold coin. There'll always be another trade, especially in trading markets. I mean, just wait 10 minutes. There'll be another trade. Sure. You do never, ever chase markets. So are there any exercises? You asked if there's any exercises that I recommend. We use subconscious training. It's kind of a light hypnosis where you take some deep breathing, a few deep breaths, and then repeat to yourself. You can make a recording. You can use our recordings about that I'm a wise and disciplined trader, and I do the things that a wise and disciplined trader. This is not the kind of hypnosis where you go deep, and you're sleeping for 20 minutes. This is a 6 or 7 minute application where you relax a little bit, and then you make these audio statements to yourself with your eyes closed. This is enough. When you take some deep breaths, see what happens is when you have problems trading, it's because your subconscious mind has a belief that is not conducive to being a successful trader. It may be holding fear. In other words, it may be holding something from way back when your parents told you that trading was gambling or the stocks was gambling, and you built neural pathways around that. And sometimes you wonder why you struggle as a trader, because you're still holding a dominant neural pathway that says trading or stock buying or whatever is risky, and your father says you shouldn't be doing it. And this is not a conscious thought. This is a subconscious, but our conscious mind what we communicate with, when we think to ourselves and talk to ourselves. This is our conscious mind that we're talking to ourselves, but our conscious mind will make decisions based on what our subconscious mind believes is true. So you can try to talk yourself into whatever you want consciously, but when the time comes, you're going to say, I need to pull the trigger. Your subconscious mind goes, oh, that's risky stuff. Remember, Dad told us not to do that. You know, and you hesitate, and the market goes off, and you say, why do I keep doing that? It's because your subconscious mind is holding a belief for you that's not true. And the way you change that is to build neural pathways with the right message. So by breathing in and out, by 4 or 5 times, sitting in a relaxing chair, closing your eyes, and submitting just an audio to yourself of your own voice or ours or whatever with the correct message, first person, positive. I'm a wise and disciplined trader. I do the things that a wise and disciplined trader does. I take my signals immediately after or when my trading plan gives me the signals, because my trading plan is a tested trading plan, and I believe in it 100%. I do it without hesitation. I'm a wise and disciplined trader, and I do the things that a wise and disciplined trader does. If you say those kinds of things, even for a few minutes to yourself, every day in a relaxed situation, each time you do that, you're building neural pathways. And when you build enough neural pathways, you form a neural net, which becomes your dominant behavior for that stimulus. So now when the same stimulus comes, take the trade, now you have a dominant neural pathway that says, take the trade, I'm a wise and disciplined trader, I do the things that a wise and disciplined trader does, boom. You take the trade without hesitation. So whenever you know what you actually believe is true for you by the way you act. You can't say to me, well, I don't have any problem with taking the trade. I still don't know why I don't trade it. Well, you do have a problem taking the trade, because somewhere in your mind, the dominant pathway for that stimulus is telling you that what's true for you is that you shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah,
whatever reason.
It could be the type of situation as you said earlier, where maybe it was something from maybe your father said to you when you were a kid, or your grandfather lost all his money in 1929 when the stock market crashed. And those types of things, if you hear it often enough, those types of things become almost second nature to you, and that's kind of what you're thinking about, as opposed to thinking about what you could make on that particular trade or this particular trade, etc. So I think it's a very wise and well thought out point.
That's exactly right. And the reason why you need to, when you relax and take deep breaths, you're moving yourself into an alpha brainwave state. This is the state. This is the state at which your conscious mind kind of moves aside, and you can submit suggestions directly to your subconscious mind. This is why you need the relaxation part. It's because if you just say it to yourself while you're in your normal consciousness, while you're in your active consciousness, your conscious mind will just edit everything based on that truth. If you relax with deep breaths, you get into an alpha brainwave state that moves the conscious mind aside, so that you can submit these ideas and build the neural pathways directly to the subconscious mind. So that's why the whole thing works. And in our training, we've identified 6 different core emotional responses. For instance, patience is very important. Waiting. How many times do I hear traders see the moving average? I mean, there it is. The shorter-term moving average is about to cross. It's definitely going to cross. Why don't I just get in and get a couple extra points? Now, all of a sudden it turns down, and so they're not willing to wait for confirmation. So patience, very important. Reducing fear, reducing greed, eliminating those things. Also, what we talked about with the strength to pull the trigger. These are 4 of the 6 core elements, and we hit on those because that's really where the issues are. But the great thing about it is that it really takes not much, 6, 7, 8 repetitions of a 5 or 7 minute sit-down session with yourself to build enough neural pathways to become dominant. So this is not something that takes weeks and years.
Right.
The beautiful part is once you're willing to admit that you're the problem, the solution is right at hand.
In your opinion, how should a trader deal with losses?
Well, the same way they deal with success. Not not too high, not too low. Look at it as a learning experience. I'm down here near Miami, and the Miami Heat, they're the world champions, but whenever you hear anybody, whether it's LeBron James or Dwayne Wade talking, they take everything a game at a time, and they the coach always talks about not worrying too much about losses, not getting too excited about wins, just taking what you learn from why did we win so well, what caused the great win that we had, what caused the loss that we have, taking eliminating the negative, turning the negatives around to positive, amplifying the positives, and then moving forward to the next game with your next with a new improved approach. And that's really what you're doing. Now, you can do a lot more than that from a specific standpoint by just especially in the beginning. You're going to say, here it is. Apparently I felt fear, so I didn't do it. I started to literally sweat, and I didn't take the trade, and it would have been a win, or I should have taken that trade. Or I took a loss. I took 2 or 3 losses in a row. Now you start doubting your system. Is the market changing in a kind of a core way, so that now my trading plan is not working anymore, and I'm just throwing money away? I'll wait till this. The truth is that you should have back tested it, and if you did with any kind of data for any length of time, you would have seen that whatever your process is was capable of taking 6, 7, 8 losses in a row. I've never seen a system where even the great ones with a back test will show you that. But when you're on top of it, when you're living the losses, they're right in your face, and you can become emotional about it. So the idea is that if you find yourself doing that, then what you need to do is reduce your risk, because apparently you can't handle the emotion at that risk, and that's not a good thing. And so you want to admit that. You want to drop down in your exposure. You want to continue trading. I like to see people work through it on a real money basis. Because what happens is so much of the time, I'm not going to trade, I am going to trade. So you stop trading, then you get 2 big winners in a row, and then you jump in for the next one, which is a loser, and that's what causes people to jump out of buildings. So you want to continue to play the game and execute your plan, but you want to do it on a reduced level if you see yourself being involved at all in the emotional part of it, or not responding quickly. Look, I get a little emotional here and there, especially when you're winning. You tend to want to say how great you are.
Exactly.
But you learn to catch yourself. As a more professional you tend to want to be with your results, the more you're going to catch yourself early. So how do I deal with losses? The same way as well, if it becomes a real problem where I'm not able to execute my plan, you got to stop the music and train your mind.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. It's funny you should say that, Norman, because my philosophy is this: if I have a loss, and let's face it, I'm mortal like anyone else. We all have losses. My philosophy is, if I can learn something from that loss, it's not a loss. In other words, if I made a mistake either in the setup or pulling the trigger too quickly, or waiting too long, or not waiting for the moment, if you will, to do it. You know what? If I can learn something from that lesson, it's not really a loss because I learned something that day. I mean, that's kind of what my philosophy is. And for me, I mean, it seems to work pretty well because I very rarely make the same mistake twice. I'll be on the lookout for it, etc. And when I see it coming, okay, I've seen this, been there before. Seen this movie before. I'll avoid it. That's kind of what my mindset is in terms of dealing with that.
Let me ask you, Nick. When you take a loss, do you take the next trade? Let me ask it this way: for me, the losses tend to disappear once I get into the next trade. The emotion from the loss. Once I give myself new opportunity, I stop lamenting about the past.
Yeah, exactly.
This is why I like. Do you find it to be the same way with you?
Yes, I do. I don't look back with regret. I don't ever look back with regret. I also don't look at it from the perspective of, Well, if I would have stayed in just a little while longer, I would have made another $100. Well, you know what? If I made $300-400 on the trade, believe me, I'm not complaining. I used to hear that quite often too. If I stayed in a little longer, to me, it's like, hey, look, if you could turn around and be on the positive side at the end of the trading day, guess what? That's a win. That's a win. And you shouldn't have anything to complain about it. So, I also look at it from that point of view too.
Geez, I got you excited there, Nick. Jeez.
Well, thank you for that. It was pretty good at, in the afternoon on in the midweek. But the other thing too, Norman, is I look forward to your 4-minute drills that you put out every Saturday. I look forward to them every single week, and I don't think there's ever been a week that I miss out on it. I enjoy it without question. But I've noticed that your 4-minute drills, it doesn't seem as though any two are ever alike. So I guess my next question would be, well, how do you come about new ideas for your 4-minute drills?
Well, actually today I'm recording 4-minute drill number 90. I've been doing it every week now for 90 weeks.
I know. And
although, I probably skipped 10 weeks within those 90 weeks, Christmas or whatever over the last couple of years. But I'm on my 90th drill. And for those that don't, you can go to thedisciplinetrader.com, and the drills are free. Just look at the blog and thedisciplinetrader.com and click on the blog. You'll see all the drills. You can actually search for 4-minute drill for traders on YouTube, and they're all on there. It's free. It's just 4 minutes of action for you.
Right.
And what I try to do is I tell people I see myself as the Tony Robbins of trading,
exactly.
If I can be so bold. There's nobody out there like this, and I'm doing this because I love to do it. I tend to be an emotional guy, a very positive guy, successful trader. Why not me?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the 4-minute drills are all about. They're to energize you and keep you positive, because truthfully, the most important issue with traders is that they need to keep that positive expectancy. And after a while, you got to get your ideas from different places.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is I always look at my own experiences in my life and say, how does that apply to being an interesting trader? Pretty much everything I do. Well, for instance, I just went to Singularity University last month.
Mm-hmm.
These people are the leaders in artificial intelligence, and I was invited to a closed summit of 40 people.
Mm-hmm.
Guy sitting next to me on the left was the product manager for Microsoft of all the product releases, and another guy on my right was the technical head of the government in India. Everybody. In this room, I was wondering what I was doing there until I realized, hey, positive expectancy, you belong here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought to myself, they knew we would ask good questions in this group, and we had a couple of the smartest people in the world. One being Ray Kurzweil,
mm-hmm.
and the other being Peter Diamandis, who just wrote a book called Abundance, which I recommend for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It gives a positive view of the future without all this, the world's coming to an end.
Right.
But I attended this, and as I was going to this 2-day, I kept on putting a star next to everything that I thought had a meaning for traders.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I took this invitation, and actually I had to write a check to accept the invitation. And I normally don't spend that kind of money accepting an invitation, but I thought, these guys are the most advanced people on the planet with upcoming technologies. Maybe I can come away with 1 or 2 ideas that I can get in early on some sort of technology and really ride it to some nice profit. So that. And I was looking for that in the back of my mind as they were going through ideas, and I've been using those as topics for 4-minute drills, talking about not only what those future technologies are, but how we may want to take advantage of them, and how to keep yourself under control so that you can take advantage of them. So I sometimes I of course keep to the idea of staying disciplined. It's all about our own control and execution as traders, and that's what the bottom line to every 4-minute drill is. But it's all about staying positive. But why do we want to be positive about about our trading? Well, because the future holds some tremendous things. But no matter what position you're in right now, whether you don't have a dime in the bank, whether you have $10 million in the listen, guys with $10 million, they worry, believe it or not, just as much as a guy with no money in the bank. I know it's hard to believe for some people, but if you cannot control your mentality and maintain a positive expectancy, you're not going to be a happy person. And all of this, whatever we do, it should all be about us being a happy, content person and having happy, content, loving people around us. And that's what being a disciplined trader does for you.
Well, you know,
if you can act as a disciplined trader, you can take those same processes and use it in your regular life.
Well, you know, I noticed when you first talked about the Singularity Institute, and you did it on a 4-minute drill. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. And I felt that was very, very profound because basically what you were saying was, hey, listen, if you're a trader or if you trade for a living, you're doing something very, very positive for the economy, for, you know, the world at hand, etc. And I have to say, I mean, I never heard anybody speak that way. You know, I had never heard anyone speak that way. And one of the things that I noticed over the years, you know, just on a personal note, Norman, the one thing that you preached, I mean, early on to all of us, was, listen, it's not about how much money you make. It's about preserving your trading capital. And ever since that kind of became my mantra, if you will, I never had a blown out account. I mean, I've never had anyone, you know, a brokerage firm, or you owe us money, or, you know, you blew out your account, or, you know, we're going to take away your house, or, you know, whatever the situation was. I've never had that kind of situation because in the back of my mind, and I think you drummed it into our heads like really, really strictly, you know, your number one goal and objective is to preserve your trading capital. Because without that, there is no business. And, you know, I always took that away from me, and in the back of my mind, always kept it as my mantra, if you will. Which is why, you know, just personally speaking as a trader, I always trade with a stop loss. I think you got to be playing with Russian roulette if you don't. Particularly with the volatility that we're seeing these days in these markets. So, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Any other discussions that you may have? You know, I have up here, you know, for my people, anyone else who's looking at this, I put up the URL for Norman's site, The Disciplined Trader. I would strongly recommend it. I would strongly recommend you view it. He has a very nice intro video, etc., that talks about the program. You know, definitely view it. And if you're having any kind of issues, etc., this is something that, without question, is worthy of exploration. And I can say that, you know, from a personal perspective as well, because, like I said, I've been following your work for the better part of 10 years, and, you know, there's no one else out there that does or teaches, preaches trading psychology quite the way you do, Norman. So I thank you for that.
I appreciate it, Nick. I appreciate you having me. I guess if there's one last thing I have to say, it would be you know, you mentioned about keeping your, you know, if you can control your losses, control your risk, everything seems to work out. And it works on two bases. One is the obvious one, where if you can keep your risk small and your profit higher over time, your account is just going to build by definition. But the real power of keeping your risk small is keeping your positive expectancy intact. There's nothing that kills your attitude, that is a punch to the solar plexus, more than letting a loss run and then having to take a loss that you never should have taken because you were an idiot enough not to follow your plan. You know, and so you start calling yourself an idiot. You start, you know, you start deconstructing your positive nature. That is where runs of losses and blown out accounts happen. Listen, I've been to that place where they're about to take the house, and that they're, you know, that listen, I used to take risks in my 20s that I never should have taken, and you know, I didn't know better, and if I didn't know, maybe I did know better, but I wasn't willing to do it because I had all this time left to get it back if I wasn't. So, you know, but when I look back, you know, even during the bad times, what turns around the bad times is when you dig in and say, hey, I'm no longer going to look at lack, at what's happening to me in a downhill way. I'm now going to put the skids on, and from here on in, I'm looking at what can be positive from here on in. What's happening for me in the future that's good, and that's where I'm going to focus. And from that point on, in anybody's life, I challenge you to look back. It's at the point where you decide that your attitude has to change, that the results start to change. So I'm saying to you that yes, keep your losses low, keep your numbers right from the standpoint of lower losses and higher gains in comparison, but even more so to keep the positive expectancy, because I think that more than anything else, traders underestimate their own ability to be successful. They're just getting in their own way. They're getting in their own way. Anyway, Nick, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Norman. Appreciate your time, and I thank you very much. This has been a very, very positive session. Thank you.
All right, my friend. Be well.
You too. Take care now.